The prevention of extending rights to marry to individuals of society can be interpreted as undemocratic. According to Professor Brandon Waite, political science professor at Ball State University, many see the offerings of anything less as unconstitutional. Other views, such that are supported by the National Organization for Marriage, state that by allowing homosexuals the ability to marry could lead to the disintegration of the family, which is the fundamental social unit which government is to protect. It's not that gay marriages aren't common in the course of history. Ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome all show evidence of public ceremonies in which two men formalized their relationship for long durations of times. In the late 16th and 17th centuries, both China and Japan have recorded marriages for both men and women pairings. The 13th century in Europe marked the beginning of general disapproval in relationships between same-sex individuals for Western culture. The United States has not actively dealt with the issue until relatively recently, and public opinion appears to be moving in the direction for allowing gay marriages. In 1996, the federal government passed the Defense of Marriage Act, which was the conservatives' official reaction to the allowance of gay marriage in Hawaii 4 years earlier. They wanted to ensure that the states that chose to outlaw gay marriage could continue to do so, without having to honor the same privileges and immunities of other states by defining marriage and giving states ultimate authority in validating out-of-state marriages. In the 2000 presidential election, many states had referendums added to ballots. This was intended to draw out more conservative voters, which polarized many on the issue. That year marked an increase in support from anti-gay marriage activists in the political system, achieving marriage-restricting policy agendas. Legislation up to this point has served two functions. They're designed to inhibit or allow for gay marriage to be justified under the law. The first type is used to allow for homosexual individuals to join together in a legal sense, whether it be in the form of civil unions or outright promise of marriage. The state of Vermont serves as a perfect example of a state that has approved legislation that allows for universal civil unions, which guarantees rights to those in civil unions much like marriage certificates do in other states. Gay couples are not, in effect, married, though. Vermont recognizes that religious institutions have the right to beliefs in marriage and protect religious leaders from refusing to guarantee marriage ceremonies. The second type of law enacted has been to restrict gay marriages from taking place and have generally focused on attacking the issue from a national perspective. The Defense Against Marriage Act, otherwise known as DOMA, which passed in 1996, had two provisions which restricted gay marriages from a federal level. It was considered at the time to be unconstitutional by experts, but unfortunately has not been challenged yet at the Supreme Court level. The first part of DOMA defines marriage as being strictly between a man and a woman, therefore making a federal acknowledgement that valid marriages are only between a man and a woman. The second part of legislation outlines the idea of federalism in the national system. Individual states are given the authority to choose whether or not to validate marriages between same-sex couples from other states. The state of Indiana has taken DOMA and integrated it into its family law regarding whom shall marry. This change is listed as the first point in the law. It's one of many states to incorporate the provisions of DOMA into its state's constitution. The federal government has chosen to make it known that officially they view marriage as being between a man and a woman exclusively, but without creating an amendment to the Constitution. They have left states with the ability to decide on whether or not gay marriage should be considered constitutional. Those who support gay marriage have turned to the courts to overturn many pieces of anti-gay marriage legislation and or view the issue as one of fundamental rights guaranteed in the Constitution. The Constitution of the United States, on a basic and fundamental level, guarantees that states value marriages, driver's license, etc. from other states in the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, also known as the Privilege and Immunities Clause. When held up to this amendment, proponents of gay marriage argue that the Defense of Marriage Act, which states validate marriages from other states, is unconstitutional. DOMA has never been challenged by the Supreme Court because the makeup currently of the Supreme Court tends to deliver more conservative opinions, forcing gay rights activists to hold off on challenging the law. This isn't to say that inroads aren't being made, though. The case of Goodridge versus the Massachusetts Department of Public Health was pivotal in determining that laws restrict marriage to heterosexuals not constitutional. It basically said that it established the law in Massachusetts that banning gay marriages couldn't be defined really reasonably defend why rights to marry could not be extended to individuals of the opposite sex. As a result, the state of Massachusetts did not view homosexual relationships as different from straight relationships in the state of Massachusetts. The Constitution, in opinion of those supporting gay marriages, should be read as guaranteeing rights to minorities, including those seeking marriage. There are a faction of gay rights supporters who believe legislation regarding gay marriage should be crafted to remove the government in issuing marriage license, which have their roots in religious matters. The state of Vermont, as I mentioned before, has amended their constitution to reflect this sentiment. And yet states continue to use DOMA to justify their own marriage laws, and only 4 states deferred from the act and define marriage and alternative means. The California Supreme Court determined that same-sex marriages were not legally constitutional. The decision repealed several marriage certifications handed out to same-sex couples prematurely. And of course we know Proposition 8, a public referendum against gay marriage, echoed this sentiment by banning gay marriage altogether in the state of California. These laws are unfair and discriminating by allowing certain rights to certain segments of society, but not others in the individual society. The rights of gay couples should be the same as that as heterosexual couples underneath the law that they assert. The 14th Amendment to the Constitution, as mentioned, gives citizens these rights to life, liberty, and property. Democracies are to protect minorities' rights, no matter how small those minorities are. The rights not afforded to homosexual couples that are afforded to heterosexual couples in America are causing suffering to gay citizens. Due to the lack of authenticity or validation of same-sex couples' marriages, thousands of dollars are lost when one of the pair dies, as reported by the study of the Urban Institute. They asserted that despite having paid taxes their whole lifetime at the same rate as other Americans, surviving partners in homosexual relationships are denied Social Security survival benefits and are made available to all married couples, and are heavily taxed on any retirement plan they inherit from their partners, although married spouses can inherit these plans tax-free. They also found that homosexual survivors are charged with an estate tax on their inheritance of a home, even if it was jointly owned, a tax that would not apply to married spouses. Gay marriage supporters also believe that the institution not only strengthens families, but provides better opportunities for children raised in same-sex couples' homes. Across societies, marriage is typically viewed as an economic institution and not sexual in nature. Allowing 2 individuals to join together in economic dependency stabilizes their assets. Marriage decreases sexual promiscuity among individuals regardless of sexual orientation, through binding 2 individuals in commitment agreement that is legally binding. In other words, the losses are more severe should one get caught by cheating on a spouse and then divorce in comparison to getting caught by a boyfriend or a girlfriend and merely breaking up. By allowing for gay marriages, there is an argument that it will decrease the chance of sexually transmitted diseases and potentially life-threatening practices that would arise from such promiscuity as it does with heterosexual individuals. And finally, children raised by homosexual parents operate at the same level, if not better, in some cases when compared to heterosexual children. Studies in favor of homosexual marriages have found. Gay parents are more open to talking to their children about difficult issues such as identity. As a result, these children are not likely to suffer from problems like confusion about gender identity. Homosexual couples oftentimes are more open with their children regarding discussions of sex-related issues, which heterosexual parents do not do well. Gay couples tend to adopt harder-to-place children more frequently than heterosexual couples, as noted by statistics from social workers. Dr. Carolyn Campitas, a sociologist at Ball State University, believes that there is no reason why homosexuals should be allowed to marry, though her research has found that it is difficult to define what traditional household based around equates to being. At the root, the prevalent reason that individuals marry over the course of time has been related to finances, and only recently, she says, have marriages been envisioned to have alternative means. Homosexual marriage, in her opinion, will strengthen marriages and encourage those who get married to be married to members of the opposite sex and then divorced to be in a family and stay from the start. There was a study done in Vermont looking at couples that registered for same-sex civil unions. 40% who were getting in a civil union reported as being in a heterosexual marriage before getting married to someone of the same sex. She said studies have shown that homosexual marriages occur after someone has been in a heterosexual marriage. Changing to approving gay marriage would allow for a problem to be alleviated. After examining the history of gay marriage in the United States, legal interpretations of the issue, discriminations of a sector of society, and the effects of gay marriage on the family and children, the topic of gay marriage, I think, is safe to conclude to say that rights for gays to marry is a simple matter of legal principle and education. It's easy to understand why some individuals fully support the rights of homosexuals to formalize their relationships in the institution of marriage. And yet, it's also easy to understand, without education, why other individuals are not supportive of the formalization of homosexual relationships. So, I would hope, after the end of this speech, that the question of should same-sex marriages be legalized in the United States be answered invariably yes.